Hi, hello, welcome to Spell Day. We're covering a spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHB plus 3. Those plus 3 spells are homebrew spells. We're at plus 2 at the moment. You can head back to the playlist to find them. And today's spell is Vampiric Touch.
You vain-glorious narcissistic poser. How I loathe that determination of your kind to belie your true nature with Paris fashions and pomp. You are a dead thing, a creature of the shadows. Start acting like one.
Third level Necromancy, casting have 1 action, range of self, components for roll somatic, duration concentration up to 1 minute. The touch of your shadow-wreathed hand can siphon life force from others to heal your wounds. Make a melee spell attack against a creature within your reach. On a hit, the target takes 3d6 necrotic damage, and you regain hit points equal to half the amount of necrotic damage dealt. Until the spell ends, you can make the attack again on each of your turns as an action. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d6 for each slot level above 3rd. Healing spell or damage spell? We're going to answer that and a few bit more. So first off, in the player's hands, or an adventurer's hands, not the best. At least not the best for the situation that's usually used or picked for, which is in the middle of combat. As yes, just you're making an attack, you're dealing damage, you're getting health, things that, it's filling the role that a vampire does in the middle of combat, but a vampire has legendary actions, targets that are grappled, and it's more efficient. Not to mention it has baked-in regeneration on top of that. Meanwhile, you're spending a 3rd level spell known, a spell slot, and concentration for a melee attack spell. That does 3d6. So then the benefit has to come from the health, but the health is half of the damage you dealt, which has some benefits. Namely, it's dealt, not taken, not done to kill the target. So commoner, 4 health, you're not going to get 2 every time you kill commoner. It's half of whatever you rolled. So upcasting it for just, we're skipping ahead, but anywho, you're likely to get half of the 3d6 instead of just half of 4, which makes it a little better on namely hitting smaller targets. Though another nice thing about it is this just gives you this effect for a full minute. It's not a minute until you use it, it's for a minute. Your hands can do this. So it's not just a burst of 3d6, it's potentially about 30d6. But the fact it's tied to a melee attack, or melee spell attack, so its range is 5 feet, really hurts this in the hands of a full caster. Even in Eldritch Knight mix, it goes back to the argument of just make multiple attacks, because the healing itself is not that worth it in combat. As that's why it's not picked up that often, because this is not a combat spell, and that's what people confuse it for, and people argue for it for. This is not a combat spell. This is one of the few arcane ways of healing. It's a full-on out-of-combat healing spell. Just for you, really. But it can be quite efficient, especially at higher levels. So namely, heading off into the healing side kinda goes out of adventurer's hands unless you're playing an evil party. By the way, if you're playing an evil party, take notes. So, to actually get this healing, because yes, we're just focusing on the healing for now, not the killing, you need to actually hit a creature. It needs to make an attack against it, and a successful hit. So world building wise, or I just guess horrific notes of trying to figure out and get the most out of this spell. Have a bunch of prisoners. It's a reason for necromancers or evil sorcerers to go out, steal away a village. They're a health potion. So yeah, you have 10 prisoners, and you cast this at the end of the day. 1 by 1, they're restrained, you have advantage against them. They're likely not to struggle that much, or, they are probably likely to struggle, but you've taken care of that. Or the BBG's taking care of that, or this other evil wizard or evil campaign. Because now, if we word it this way, that it's an out-of-combat healing spell, that yes, you just needed, these are material, we'll label them material components for the sake of this spell. Hey, this is where an evil side of necromancy is looked at. It's all about toying with life. This is just, a bit more personal. You're not talking to a corpse, they have to be alive for this. Actually, never mind! By the sake of the spell, it doesn't even have to be a living target. Undead still count. And constructs. Man, I really would have put that in. Anywho, at the base of the spell, you could do this on dead or constructs if you wanted. Anywho, you have your 10 prisoners, whatever, whoever they are, lined up, restrained, advantage in all your hits. Let's assume you hit all of them, just for the sake of the math on this. Over a minute, you have... Compare this to a single spell slot, 3rd level Cure Wounds. That is Cure Wounds, 3d8, plus your spellcasting modifier at 3rd level. this, yes, while it takes over a minute, is only one spell slot, and is half of 3d8, or 3d6, 10 times. At just 3rd level. This scales up quite well, because it's not really just adding a d6, because it's not a burst spell. This is a d6 that stacks, that's another 10d6. That's a really efficient upcast, not for the sake of the initial damage on the enemy target, but for the healing. Especially if you cast this at 9th level for some reason, you're taking half of 90d6, in sets of 9, but half of 90d6. It doesn't matter if it's only just like a 2 health target, it's just half the damage dealt, not what it took to kill a creature. So world building wise, oh boy. I guess wording wise as well, necromancers could just purposely drain their undead undead? The zombies and skeletons around them, they can just reanimate them later. But just purposely destroy them, especially as well, because if they're under your command, they'll listen to you. Just keep draining back that force you gave to animate them, heal yourself, they drop down. Not to mention, if you are doing an evil character build or running NPCs, with necromancy, you get Grim Harvest. So you get an additional 9 health every time you kill a target with this. Every time you kill a target with this. So again, that like peasant or commoner situation, add 90 already. If a necromancer can escape and then has a group of prisoners and this spell, they are not getting away. Or they are getting away, sorry, they're healing. They are really healing. That's the way I've begun ruling it after doing the math on that, and figuring out it lasts more than just 1 turn. Because yeah, concentrate, you're not going to be using this in combat. Unless you're a vampire who has Vampire Bite built in and you have additional regeneration, legendary actions, high speed, this is not for a scrawny wizard or spellcaster to get into melee with. This is for a spellcaster who has time on their hands to take health from something else that they have prisoner. Or caught, it could just be fishing. Animals. It's blood magic, it really is. It's really fitting that classical archetype really well. Because yes, we've gone with the stereotypical route of just, you know, village prisoners from somewhere, but because it doesn't have a stipulation on undead and constructs aren't affected by it, which I really think should be in there. If it's on healing spells and resurrection spells, why is it not in this one? I guess for the sake of dealing damage. We could just hit... Anywho, you could have a fishing industry based around not just the killing part of it, also just healing someone. Various bits of livestock, brief animals kept, and then there's the whole argument of any spell like this that... Can it go down to the, like, bugs? Do bugs count? If they do, wow, you'll just have a jar of the roaches that you crush every time with this. It can get finicky, because it's just creature, and damage dealt, not taken. 6 out of 10. That's really going in the, like, NPC villain category, and if you're being a villain player campaign. But for general adventuring, this really isn't for combat. It's not. It sounds cool, Vampiric Touch. It sounds fantastic, you know, cool, creepy theming, taking health while dealing damage. But that's for vampires and the innate ability and regeneration on top of it. Remember, it's not their only way of getting health back. It's an addition. But no. And even, namely going up to 6, it would be lower. But going up to 6 is because if it's out of combat, the concentration doesn't hurt it that much. 3rd level for the trade-off of if you use it every round isn't that bad if your main focus is on the healing, not the killing. And the fact you can actually upcast it, and that's more adding, if you can guarantee a hit every round, 10d6 for the full minute. Every time you upcast it, that's really good. That is really good trade. Not trade, that's really good scaling. But... the issue is the acquisition of said material components that might want to continue living. But then again, just target undead. It just says creature. It's a healing spell.